Good morning, Year 6, and welcome back to another day. It is Wednesday, the 29th of April today, and we are going to be looking at punctuating speech. A little final revision on this, okay, for this year. So, punctuating speech, okay. Now, reported speech versus direct speech. Now, reported speech sort of summarizes what's been said, and it does not usually use direct quotes and does not have any special punctuation. So here's an example of reported speech. Okay, the goat said that they wanted to eat the green grass on the other side. They said it, but it's just generally telling us what they said, not exactly what was said. Okay, but we're going to be looking at direct speech today. Okay, and that's what part of your task is for today. So when it uses direct speech, some specific punctuation is required to separate what is said from the rest of the text, and it just makes it much easier to read. So the most important rule in punctuating direct speech is that they must be enclosed by inverted commas. Okay, you may know these as speech marks. The correct technical words are inverted commas. Okay, now in British English you could use a single inverted comma. It's fairly uncommon, but it is fine as long as it is the same throughout the whole of your text. Generally, we would usually use these ones here, a double inverted comma, like you can see in the top and the bottom of the screen there. And they're obviously more common. Now, it's just important that you use them. As long as they're the same all the way through your piece of writing, it is fine. Whether it's a single or a double inverted comma, it's fine. Again, you may also know them as the 66 and the 99, okay? So inverted commas are very, very key. Now, let's just look at the punctuation inside of the inverted commas. So all commas, full stops, question marks, and exclamation marks must also be enclosed by inverted commas. That means they must be inside. So let's have a look at these ones here, okay? That grass looks delicious, and you can see the comma just here before, okay, the inverted comma. Said the smallest Billy Goat Gruff, and you can see it's a comma because I've not yet finished the sentence, okay? Even though this is what's being said, okay, it's at the start. That grass looks delicious, said the smallest Billy Goat Gruff. And then I've got the full stop at the end of my sentence. Let's look at this one. Look at the punctuation in here. Hey, goat, shouted the troll. You are not allowed to cross my bridge. Again, look at how it's been punctuated there. And the final one. How can we get to the other side? Asked the biggest goat, Gruff. Again, notice all full stops, commas, question marks. They are all inside the inverted commas, not outside like this, okay? Now, commas are another important tool that we use to help the reader sort of understand direct speech and where it is in regards to the rest of the text. So where direct speech precedes a verb, that means comes before a verb, like shouted or said or replied, and it does not end in a question mark or an exclamation mark, a comma must be used. So if your speech comes first, and then who has said it, okay, you will notice it will use a comma, not a full stop. It may use an exclamation mark, it may use a question mark, but it will not use a full stop, okay? So we need to get to the other side, comma, moan the goats. Those goats are always disturbing my sleep, comma, muttered the troll. Again, notice they are inside those speech marks, okay? Now, whether direct speech before the verb ends in a question mark or exclamation mark, however, this punctuation replaces a comma. As I've just said, of course, if it's a question mark, you get rid of the comma, okay? You don't use both of them like this one here. Now, where direct speech comes after a verb, it follows a verb, comes after the verb, okay? A comma must be used after the verb to indicate that direct speech is about to begin. So, look here. The smallest Billy Goat Gruff said, comma, I'll go first. The troll shouted, comma, who goes there? So we can see if the speech comes first, I use a comma at the end of the speech. If the person who's saying it first, okay, I then use a comma before the speech. And again, I've still got my inverted commas there as well. I've still got my punctuation at the end, but you'll notice a full stop being used here, okay? So just be careful how you punctuate your direct speech. Let's have a look here. So punctuation inside inverted commas. So where direct speech follows the verb, a full stop, exclamation mark, or question mark must be used inside the inverted comma. Again, so same thing here. I've got who is saying it, and obviously how they said it. I've got my different verbs here of how they are saying it. And I've got my comma, and at the end I've either got full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark. So notice the difference. If I just go back a minute, you'll see here, these ones, okay, where we speak first, uses a comma, and then who has said it, or an exclamation mark, or a question mark. And then these ones here, when it comes at the end, you will see they use a full stop because it's the end, okay? And then it could also use a question mark or an exclamation mark, depending on what or how it is being said. So that's two ways. And there's a third way here, and that is split direct speech. And that's if the sentence is broken up by information about who is speaking. You will need a comma or a question mark or an exclamation mark to end the first piece of speech, and another comma before the concluding part, the end part of the speech. Okay, so let's just have a look at how this would work here. So again, I've got my inverted commas. So I'm light and quiet. Then I've got my comma and my close of speech. Said the smallest billy goat gruff. Then it opens up with an inverted comma again here. So I'll go first. Full stop. And notice I have got here now the first part of what is being said, comma, close my speech. Who has said it, and then what he said again, sort of for the rest of the sentence, okay? Because this is all one sentence. Now you can see we use a lowercase letter to restart that speech part, okay? Now this wouldn't work if their character is saying 5 or 6 lines. Of course, you'll just open speech and put your full stops in as normal and close your speech at the end of what they have said. But if it is just one sentence and it's being split in the middle by who is saying it to sort of give a bit of cohesion to your writing, then you will need to use a comma or a question mark or an exclamation mark here, comma after who has said it, and then when you reopen it, it is a small letter to capital, a lowercase letter, not a capital letter there. Okay. Now, if the direct speech is two small sentences separated by information about who's speaking, you will need a comma to end the first piece of speech and a full stop after the information about the speaker. Okay, so there we go. Now then, just another reminder, if it's a new speaker, it's a new line. So if the direct speech in a text involves more than one speaker, a new line is used for each new speaker. New speaker, new line, okay? So again, you can see here some different direct speech, inverted commas, punctuated correctly, full stop at the end of the sentence. But I've got a conversation here between the smallest billy goat gruff, the biggest one, and then the medium-sized one. So they've got new lines because they're a new speaker. So when you're doing your task today, make sure that Mouse and his dad have different lines for each time they speak, okay? Now, reporting clauses are the name for the sort of end of it. So who is saying it? So shouted the troll, or the middle of it, bleated the smallest billy goat gruff. Okay, and they're called reporting clauses. It just tells us who is saying what is in the direct speech. So there is a little reminder of everything that I have discussed here. Okay, it's telling us how to punctuate it. So all reported speech, there's no extra punctuation, but we're not doing that today. We are using direct speech. So they must be included inverted commas. And it goes through saying about direct speech before a verb, after a verb, and if it is in the middle, okay? So make sure you use this when you are writing yours today. I will post it into your English groups for you. Okay then, and there is your task. So in chapter 4, we heard a little bit more about Mouse and his father. So imagine that his dad has just arrived back in town, and Mouse decides to tell him all about the incident and the problems with Marv Hammerman. So you're going to use your imagination, and you're going to write a short section of direct speech between Mouse, that's Benjamin Forley, and his father, okay? So make sure that you use all the rules of speech, and you use different words instead of said. So not just said, but replied and shouted and screamed and whimpered. All those really powerful verbs, okay? So I'll post this to your group. That's your task year 6. I will speak to you this morning. Have a wonderful session. Goodbye.